What is the transverse rupture test and why is it important?
What you do is you cut a piece of lining about 4 inches long and about a half an inch wide. And you put it on a machine that's got a gap in the center, and you rest the two ends of the lining on either side. And there's a ram that will come down on the center of the piece, and it'll push down until the lining actually breaks. And what you're measuring is that how much pressure does it take before the material fails.
What does a high transverse rupture test mean in real world applications?
It's going to be stronger, and it's going to be far less susceptible to imperfections of the shoe table and or rust jacking like I described before.
When a brake shoe cracks, what happens inside the wheel?
It depends on where it cracks, of course, and whether or not the lining actually falls off the shoe. A lot of times the lining doesn't fall off the shoe, but it's actually cracked right where the rivets are, where it's held onto the shoe table. Whether it's caused by rust or some other mechanism, that's generally where it cracks. And when that happens, typically the lining is going to be loose, and you're not going to get the same amount of performance as you would normally. And of course, when a wheel is inspected on the side of the road, if that is a brake is found like that with cracks, they got to do a brake job on the side of the street, and that's dangerous and it's costly. So that's fleets don't want to have that. That's a bad thing.
Downtime certainly represents a significant cost and can erode profit very quickly, especially when it's not planned for. Bob, what is brake fade?
Well, first of all linings fade. What's important is at what temperature that it fades, and also how fast it recovers after it cools down. And so once again, this gets back to the raw material content. What you really want to have is a lining that provides the amount of retardation that's been designed for the axle load that you have. And you want it to fade at some point, because all linings will fade out, and there won't be any friction at all. And you can't let the lining get too hot, because it won't work anymore. And so it has to fade a little bit. But the key is how quickly it recovers once the temperature starts to drop again, because it takes a while for a brake to cool down like that. And typically, what causes that extremely high temperature is either driver abuse, or in some cases, the adjuster is not correct and the lining is being dragged. That causes tremendous amount of heat. And there's a variety of other things that might cause, sometimes you hear about wheel fires. I remember just 2 weeks ago, we had an incident where a bus had a wheel fire and it burned the bus down. Those are really expensive problems to have. So, but fade is actually designed into the lining itself. And you want to have some, but you don't. Just as an example, that's the way drum brakes are designed. Disc brakes virtually have no fade whatsoever. In order for a disc brake to not be able to perform, it's got to get extremely hot. And that's why at different times during the last 20 years, having for example, a truck with a disc brake system on it and a trailer with a drum brake system is because the vehicle that's got disc brakes, they're not going to fade, and the drum brakes will. So it's just the nature of the design of the S-cam brake versus a disc brake.